and welcome to yet another episode of Pot Shots with Bhawna. Well, in all these pot shots, we have had very incredible conversations with some great industry leaders from sales, marketing, leadership, brand management. But there was a request coming in to bring on someone from HR fraternity. So that's the reason today's episode, I have invited a seasoned HR leader, and I am going to unpack all those concerns, those areas of interest, those queries, which I'm sure probably must be on minds of most of you, which can be related to the entire evolution of HR over the years, the role of AI, the disappointing layoffs, as well as all those expectations from the workforce as well. So allow me a moment till I bring him up onto the screen for all of us. Okay, everyone. So as I was mentioning that I'm honored to have a seasoned HR leader today joining me on Pot Shots with Bhawna. I have with me Mr. Joy Banerjee. He comes with a huge span of industry experience, so more than 30 years in the industry, having worked with some top companies of this country. And currently, he is heading the HR and the administrations of the CDSL. His roots are deeply seated into strategy, into talent management, as well as all what HR requires. That is something which he holds, and he has seen it, he has been through it, and that's the reason he holds a lot of wisdom, which we are going to unpack in today's short pot of pot shots. So welcome, Joy, and thank you once again for being my guest on this show.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's pleasure is all mine. And thank you so much for bringing me here.
Pleasure all us. And I'm sure the audience is definitely very curious because they must be having so many concerns and areas which they would want some HR leader to address. And that's something on their behalf. I am going to get it resolved and get it answered from a senior leader like you. So just to let you know
Sure.
the framework of the show. So since it's a short bite-sized podcast, it's under 15 minutes. That's the reason it's spot short. So there is a code grid where I will be asking you around 5 questions, the core questions. And towards the end, we are going to have an informal, sizzling, rapid-fire question. So I hope you
Sure.
are all set. Okay. Okay.
All set.
So, okay, great. So Joy, it's starting with the kind of rich experience what you have more than 30 years in this industry. So I think the first and foremost question which I would want to know from you is that what's that timeless leadership quality which you think an HR person should be practicing irrespective of the tenure or the role they are into?
So I think there are two secret sauce, if you can say, for success. So the one of them is anybody. Now, I would not restrict it to only an HR, but if you are a good leader, the two secret sauce that needs to be there is, and which is kind of intermingled. One of them is you have to be a very good listener. So I think that's a very, very critical criteria for anything, like whether it's HR or any, if it's a leadership position, you have to be a good listener. So that's
Yes.
the first secret sauce, I would say, ingredient. The second ingredient, which is kind of linked to it, is you have to be a very good communicator. So I think that's most important, that while you are listening, that's one part of it. But you also need to communicate, because if you're not communicating, then what happens is in your mind, you may think that, okay, this is what people would have understood. But it is like, it's the elephant in the room and everybody is just assuming different things and not the real thing that it is. So you have to be very, very clear in your communication. And I would, in fact, recommend, in my life also, I've done that. There is no harm in over communicating rather than not communicating. So if you over communicate, it is absolutely fine. But if you don't communicate, that's the difficulty. In fact, that's where all the problems and all the trouble starts. So two secret mantras: be a good listener and be a communicator.
And I think these two are the most critical one, and it takes quite a bit of time to practice them. So I think that's very valid and very key attributes for a good leader or for anyone in the corporate world. So coming to the second question, since you have driven so many talent management programs in your tenure across various industries and various companies. So what, according to you, is the main key in order to balance between the process and the people, especially in the days of this hybrid culture and the, I would say, high expectation culture from both the sides, from the employer as well as the employee point of view?
So basically, see what happens is like, I'll bring it back to my second ingredient that I said about communicating. So what happens is it doesn't matter whether you are in a completely work from office or completely work from home or you are on a hybrid. What's more important is, are your people aware what they are expected of? And second thing is, are you aware as a manager what people is expecting from you? So if this expectation setting is clear, then automatically things fall into place. The major challenge would be is if the expectations are not clear. So if the expectation is clear that this is something that needs to be delivered at the end of the day, and people know that this is my expectation from my manager is you will support me by providing all the support that is required to fulfill my job, then it gets done. The trouble starts is when either of this is failed. So the main thing is it doesn't matter whether it is hybrid, work from home or work from office completely. The main thing is whether you have set the correct kind of expectations, and secondly, from your own side, are you able to live up to the expectation that has been set? And if that has been clear, I think rest everything is it's automatic. It just happens.
Yeah, but do you think that HR can play some key role over here to set the expectations right?
That's what the HR's role, of course, like HR plays the most pivotal role here, because the entire exercise of goal setting that HR does is basically how robust the entire mechanism is and how logical that entire mechanism is, because it is not a tick mark activity. It has to be something which is aligned to the organizational goal, and based on the organizational goal and based on the individual's attributes and individual's achievement that the person wants to achieve. If the HR has been able to align it, so that's the best example of like where what the organization's objective is. Based on that, you also know what your employees objective is, and your work is to basically get both these things married off. And if the
Right.
marriage is successful, you have fantastic result, because then what will happen is employee achieves his or her goals, the company also achieves its objective. There is profits, or there is whatever is your target. Like if your top line is a target, so you achieve top line. If bottom line is your target, you achieve bottom line. Or if you are operating on both, you operate both, and then you say that okay, I achieved this as an organization, so you being the contributor to this, you also get your achievement. So it's a win-win situation. So
Right.
that's where HR plays the most important role, is how well you have crafted this entire thing. So as a craftsman, I think HR's role as a craftsman is to see that how well the goal sheet has been set.
Right. So HR, as you rightly said, plays a very critical role of a matchmaker. So you are actually mapping and aligning. So that's that's very critical. Okay. So now coming to the next question, where we are living in the world of AI, where algorithms are actually driving our lives, and I don't think so. There's anything which is untouched. So is the case with hiring as well. So a lot of people these days, have this challenge that, it's all AI driven hiring. So how do you ensure that being an HR, leader, that the process remains fair and inclusive despite the fact that, we are adopting to this new world of AI?
So there are two aspects to this, So while AI is an enabler, so but AI should not be like used as an over dependence. So AI will give you a lot of insights, and AI will give you a lot of output at a very very fast pace or a speed. So which is good. So you should use it for that advantage. But then let's not forget there are certain key attributes that an human would bring into the aspect. and that aspect should not be forgotten. Number one. Number two is it becomes very, very tricky when you're dealing with large numbers. Like, if you're going to recruit, say, 200 people, 300 people, 400 people, or 1,000 people, then obviously it's a very, very difficult task. So at that point of time, you have to understand what are the key attributes that you're wanting to look at. And if those key attributes are being found in a particular candidate and it matches with the requirement, then you're good to go. Then you should take it. Because see, you will see, and I've seen in most organizations, and when I speak to some of my fellow colleagues from other organizations, they tell me this, that we did everything, Joy, but in spite of that, once the employee joined and the manager comes and says that misfit, the person is a misfit. Now, why that is happening is because, see, in today's world, everybody understand that if I have to make my resume, I will use a AI tool and make a resume which will be perfect fit.
Exactly.
The teams at the HR level is also using AI tools to identify resources based on the tools, and this particular resume is also built on that, so it will be a perfect fit. But if you have just completely designed your system that it will be system driven, so you will get the best answer, it will give you the best, so this person is best for your role, but that may not be. So that's where your intervention comes in, is that you ask the relevant questions, you understand from the person that what he or she brings to the table, and then you take a call. So it is all about understanding the attitude of that person, the amount of knowledge the person brings to the table. And I always say that, when you see a person who's come for a interview, or you are evaluating that person, the most critical aspect is you should focus on the three elements that the person brings to the table. The first is a knowledge element, the second one is the skill that the person is bringing, and the third one is what is the person's attitude, whether that is matching with your requirement. Now, if you are having this, I think then it's a good match. In fact, many companies, I find it quite interesting. So what they do is, like, you do a concept called as know your customer, so which is KYC. So they also do that, know your candidate. So they also do a KYC on know your candidate. So if you have to know your candidate, so these are the attributes that you're supposed to look at. And if you don't get any of the tick marks where you are wanting this person to bring in that kind of a knowledge or a skill, then don't go ahead, because then that person is not going to be fit. That person is good for a different role, but not for this role.
So I think this is a great twist to the KYC, and knowing your candidate really matters. And I completely agree with the fact what you're mentioning here is that you cannot be fully dependent on AI for getting people on board. So yes, it can be enabler or a first screening level, but it shall not be that we lose out on the real talent just because the AI is pushing someone's CIO CV over someone else. So that's where the human
Absolutely.
intervention comes in place. And then coming to another compelling question, which I'm sure many of the audience who are listening and watching you today would want to know, is that today, unfortunately, layoffs have become a business reality, and we have been seeing it as a trend in many industries, many organizations for various reasons. But then, how do you think HR can play that compassionate role in this transition phase and still maintaining that trust and humanity bond between both the parties?
See, this is a very, very, it's a very tricky area. And in my own career also, I have kind of faced this particular challenge in multiple organizations. So when a person loses his or her job, it's not an easy thing. It's quite difficult thing. And whatever you say, whatever good words, or, you so-called try to be empathetic towards it, but the person says that you have not lost your job, I have lost my job. So this feeling of a loss is not easy. And then what happens is, we live in a country where people don't see this quite often. Like, in Western cultures, like, getting a job, and then next day morning you walk in and you see that there is a placard outside and say that we have been sold, and so your jobs are gone. And then they go out to a cafe and they'll start applying for a new job. So that's very okay for them. But for us, I think we are still going through that phase where we are not used to this kind of a job loss. So any kind of a job loss, whether it is due to systematic change or whether it is due to organizational change, the person who gets impacted is an individual who gets that letter or who gets that email that your job is no longer required. So it is very difficult. So I think it's an emotion that is very difficult to manage. And as HR, however goody goody you would try to be, but you have to realize that, it's a bitter pill. It's a very, very bitter pill that you'll have to take in. And whatever you do, that person will be rude to you. That person will be angry on you. The person will say that, what did HR do? HR didn't protect me. HR could have protected me. So it's a given. Like, you will have to accept it that it's a bitter pill that will be coming your way. Now, at that juncture, like, it's important for the HR to realize that, this is a sentiment or this is an emotion that is obvious. So don't try to do the obvious to the other person. Like, if you ask, how are you feeling? Like, I see these news channels, somebody is
Yeah,
in deep trouble and they go
correct.
take a
Go
mic and
and
say,
ask.
Aapko kaisa lag raha hai?
Kaisa lag raha hai?
So
Correct.
it's such a stupid question. Like, it's a very stupid question because obviously that person is not feeling good. Like, don't ask that question. So one has to realize that during such things, what can HR do so that the person is given some bit of a comfort. So some things I will share which I had done it during some of these challenges that I faced in my earlier organization is before this thing happens, because being an HR, I got an insider information that this is going to happen. So what I used to do is I used to speak to some of my people, fellow colleagues who are there in the industry and see that if I can place them somewhere else. So I think as an HR, the fraternity, the people, and you can share the resumes that, this is a bunch of people who are really good. And unfortunately, we'll have to ask them to go, but then can you find some fitment for you? So some may find the same compensation, some may not find the same compensation, but at least it's kind of a stopgap arrangement for them. So that is one thing that you can do. The second thing that you can do is, at least for them, don't be too harsh and rude with them. Like, sometimes what happens is we get so bound by the rules and we become too harsh. Like, no, 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 now only you have to leave the office, now only you have to go. I think that's too harsh. There are certain things which you can, like, everybody needs time. When a person works in a particular place, there's sentiment associated to that place. So let that person grief for a moment that is required. I think we should allow that. So as HR, we should understand that the HR is two words, which is human resource. So let's not forget the human part. So it's important to be human. It's important to understand that part first and then focus on the second part, which is resource. So it is not table or chair which you can just pick up and move. These are humans. They have sentiments. They have emotions. So obviously they have to be given that time. So my secret sauce here would be simple: is give time. I think that's most important, and understand that it's emotion, and it is not something which is you're dealing with some machinery or a furniture. It's not that. Like, it's emotion that you're dealing with. So you need to deal with emotion. You need to deal with time. So I think time is the most important essence.
I think, Joy, you have really touched the chords of many people out who must be really listening to you from the HR fraternity as well as the regular audience. I mean, end of the day, we all are humans, so we have to and we all have to see that nobody is immune to this. So something which has happened to someone can happen to anyone for that matter. So
Correct.
being in someone's shoes, at least we can imagine. We cannot be there, but at least trying to relate to that position matters most. And I think I really love that gesture which you are practicing, that you are reaching out to your HR colleagues to at least give it an attempt that they can be absorbed somewhere. So I think there cannot be anything better support which can be provided from any HR team. So I think I would personally like to thank you if with this kind of practice which you are following, and I hope more and more people follow your footsteps. Now coming to the last question in the core grid, Joy. So in the world where a lot of the organizations talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, and these have become like a trending language, but very often those really are not measured up to the mark. So being an again a seasoned HR leader, what do you think can be the best practices which can be followed by HR where this DEI actually becomes more of an impact than just an intent?
So see, we are very fortunate that we are from India. So I'll just narrate one incident that happened with me when I went for a global summit in London.
Mhm.
So there, I actually did it there, and I'm just sharing and kind of a small snippet from that entire summit. And in that summit, I asked everybody that, and people were from across the globe. They came from various parts of the world. So I asked them that if you can just take out a currency note that you have in your pocket. And everybody took out a currency note. And I said that, can you see the language written on your currency note? And everybody had one single, language written on the currency note. And I said that, see my currency note, which is from India. It already has multiple. So we are a country which has always been diverse, and it's not that this is the only languages that we have. This is just a snippet of all the languages that we have. So what I'm trying to say out over here is, as a country, we are already very diverse. As a country, we have a huge, amount of cultural differences, cultural variances that we have. So we live in that country. Only thing is, this new terms have come up, and we are kind of trying to grapple to find out where we are. But we have it all. Like, our entire, if you see the history of India, we have always lived with diversity. So I think diversity is very much there. The acceptability or the awareness about that is something that one needs to be working on. And coming to, like, acceptance of it or to measure it, I think most important to see is that, how adaptable and open are you. So if you are adaptable and you are open, then everything else can fall into place. Many a times what happens is you become judgmental. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, somebody comes to Maharashtra and he's been asked this question ki, where are you from? And if he says I'm from UP and Bihar, so they said, acha tum North Indian ho. So that's the psyche. But, like, why are you calling me North Indian? Like, north of
I
India
mean,
comprises of a lot of places. Why are you
correct.
just focusing? It's so wrong, because Bihar essentially is not even north. Bihar is actually east. But then they get branded as north. First and foremost, the concept of branding anybody on the region itself is wrong. So, but that's what is the norm. Like, people follow that norm. And I think that's where we as leaders have to come in and say that, let's first understand that this is a country and people all are belonging to a country, and they may come from any state or any place, that doesn't matter. What is important is the acceptance. And that's why I said acceptance is the first thing. And the second thing is being non-judgmental. So, like, and that's not easy. So as leader also, one has to be very clear that the practices that has been followed should be non-judgmental. Now, how do I measure that whether this has been in the right way? So the more and more you find, variations in your team or your company, and you see there are lesser conflicts, that's a proof of the pudding, which says that you are accepting and you are open. If you have variances in your company, you have variance of thoughts, variance of colors, and variance of languages, but there are a lot of conflict. That means that the basic challenge is in terms of acceptance. So the acceptability is the number one thing. And number two is being non-judgmental. Like, something that you like, somebody may not like. It can be anything. It can be as simple as food. Like, somebody who's coming from North India might say that I love to have a paratha in the morning as my breakfast. But somebody from South would say that, oh, what is paratha? I don't understand paratha. I just want to have a dosa. But it's important that, both are available. So if they walk into a cafeteria, the cafeteria offers both. So you can choose what you want to have. So if you want to have a paratha, enjoy it. And if you want to have a dosa, enjoy it. So either ways, it is food. It doesn't matter, like, what is your palate. So most important thing is acceptance. And second thing is non-judgmental.
I think I love this approach where, instead of putting all those big banners and posters on the walls of boardrooms, that we are very inclusive and diverse as an organization, these small, small gestures definitely make the most impact on day-to-day activities of any employee. So I think
Yeah.
this was a great conversation. I would actually love to continue doing that, but keeping the format in mind, I'll have to stop my thoughts. So coming to that communication bit, so I know that now it's time to pause for me. So now let's get into the last part of the show, which is the rapid fire. So I'm going to ask you some informal questions, so we expect very candid reply from you. So I hope you're okay
Sure.
with that. Okay, so let me start the
Absolutely.
timer. Okay, so Joy, if hiring was a dating app swipe, so what would the swipe on be? Whether it would be on a potential or a proven track record.
It would be on attitude.
Okay, okay. So it was not in the option, but yes, okay, I'll go with that. Okay, so what is more stressful for you, whether interviewing a CEO or being stuck in some uh, unmanageable Excel sheet?
Interviewing a CEO.
Okay. Okay. If AI became your HR intern tomorrow, so what would be the first task you would want to assign it to it?
Remove all conflicts.
Okay. So you really need a very smart AI there. Okay. So if HR leadership was one of a sport, which I just mentioned, which one would you consider it to be? Would it be a cricket, which is a combination of strategy and patience? Would it be a football, which is fast and team play? Or would it be a chess, which moves with change of the game? Tough one.
Definitely chess.
Okay.
It's a chess.
Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. So if you would have to rebrand HR with a new name, what fun name would you want to give it? Would you like to give it as a people powerhouse or talent transformers or corporate cupids?
Talent transformers.
Okay, great. So we are sharp on time. So it was wonderful conversation with you, Joy, as always. And I'm sure the audience must have really enjoyed, and there are a lot of takeaways from your conversation, not only for the regular people, but even the HR colleagues who must be listening to you. So thank you once again,
Sure.
and wish you good luck. And thanks once again to be on the show.
Thank you for this opportunity, and really looking forward to seeing this podcast go live. And I would love to watch it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very soon. Thank
Thank
you
you.
once again. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so this was pure wisdom from Joy, who really emphasized that HR in HR technology does not replace the fairness, the empathy, and the leadership with purpose. So, if you are also a people manager or anyone for that matter, I hope your strategies are as heart smart as they are data smart. So, this was for today's episode. It's a wrap for today. Till we meet next time, take good care of yourself and your loved ones and come back next Friday till I bring up on with next new industry leader at another episode with Pot Shots with Bhawna. Till then, signing off.